G'day guys, how's it going? This is Broadcasting Because, and today we are back in AFL Live, and what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at my picks for the All-Australian team so far for season 2013. We're only halfway through, and at the midpoint of the season, selectors are starting to get a decent idea of who they're looking at for All-Australian selection. So what I've done is I've picked my best 22 players, including a sub, and I'll run you through those, why I've picked them, and we'll see if you agree. It's been such a fantastic season so far, this one. Players all over the place have been putting their hands up for All-Australian selection, and hopefully I've picked a team that somewhat represents the best 22 players in the AFL. It's really difficult to fit it within the structure of an 18-man side out in the field, including the 3 interchange and the sub. It's very difficult to work out which players to put in each position because some guys can play all over the park, but hopefully I've picked the best players that we could put in an All-Australian team, and let's go into team management and team lineup to check these out. Now we'll break this down section by section of the field, and we're starting off with the full back line, and I cannot go past Luke McFarlane. For such a long time, he has been an underrated defender for the Fremantle Dockers. He's been back there slaving it away for the best part of this decade, just trying to make a name for himself. And now that Freo as a team are starting to have some success, McFarlane's work rate, his work ethic, and his pure skill and ability as a defender is starting to stand out. Luke McFarlane is by far and away just about a walk-in to this All-Australian team. He's the reason that Fremantle's defensive structure is working so well for them at the moment. McFarlane's such a strong guy, he stands tall, and he's currently head of the Golden Fist. Bud Frawley, watch out for him throughout the rest of the year. As long as he can stay injury free and the guys around him as well, you'll see who else I've picked from Fremantle later on in this video. But Luke McFarlane is by far and away the Rock of Gibraltar for Freo and the Rock of Gibraltar for this All-Australian team. Next we take a look at Brian Lake. The recruit from the Western Bulldogs looked like his career was really hanging by a thread. Rumours going around he might have wandered up to Sydney, but hard to say he really would have fit in there. But Hawthorn have made him his own, and doesn't he look like a brand new rejuvenated, revitalised player now is playing with a top-class team like Hawthorn. No offence to the Western Bulldogs, but Brian Lake needed a new challenge. He felt that his career was just going to peter out toward its end at the Western Bulldogs, and going to Hawthorn, a team that's well and truly on the up, and the premiership window is still open for the next couple of years, and he could well be the factor if Hawthorn go on to play another grand final, or even go all the way and win the premiership this year. Brian Lake will be one of the guys who can put his hand up at the end of the year and say, yes, I was the reason we got here, because he has really pulled himself together in the last 6 to 8 months, and he's brought his game to a whole new level, and is now by far and away one of the premier one of the premier backs in the AFL. So the next choice I had was a very tough one. Who could partner up with Luke McFarlane and Brian Lake in the backline of the All-Australian team? So I thought, do we go with someone, another big body like a Teddy Richards or someone of that sort of a mould? But what I picked was the guy who has got the 3rd leading marks in the competition, Jakey Carlisle for the Essendon Bombers, who's sat in the back pocket and gone relatively unnoticed for most of this season. Only now is he starting to be recognised as a real threat and someone to be quite wary of when you're entering the forward 50. Maybe a little bit under the radar for most of this season, but if you keep an eye on his game and watch any Essendon games, look at how many marks this guy takes. Look how many involvements of initiating the slingshot or initiating some sort of counter-attack going outside the 50. Jakey Carlisle is involved in pretty much every one, and I tell you what, his link-ups with Watson and with Hurley all year have been absolutely fantastic. Next we move on to the half-back line, and there are no surprises here when my first choice is Nick Malceski. Now I may be a bit biased because I am a Swans fan, but Nick Malceski has been such a standout so far for the Sydney Swans. The Premiers defending their year, and I tell you what, he has been absolutely fantastic. Teddy Richards was my other possible selection for a halfback, but I reckon Malceski's bumped him out. He's been the Swans' best defender this year. He won them effectively the grand final last year with bookending goals, and I tell you what, his pace and his rebound, his ability to initiate the counter-attack, and every now and then when he does venture up forward. He's had quite a few score involvements as well. He's very much a utility defender who can slot up or slot back or play in pretty much any position in your back six and even venture up forward if need be. Along similar lines is Fremantle's Michael Johnson. McFarlane and Johnson have to be in the running for Freo's best and fairest this year. When you're playing in a team with guys like Pavlich, with like Sandlands, although have been injured, Chrissy May, Nat Fyfe, Stephen Hill, such talent there. It's hard to stand out for the little things. It's hard to stand out when you go back and take a crucial mark, or you set up a bit of play, or you get off a really crucial handball. It's those things that tend to go unnoticed, except for the very, very close-looking eye. And I think Michael Johnson has stepped up his game to a whole new level this year since Freo have found some more success. On the similar lines of McFarlane, since Freo have started to get their defensive structure right and get it working under Ross Lyon, who's really done miracles for them, he has made these guys into top-line players. He could have even won a game against Sydney off his own boot with that last-minute kick. Didn't quite go his way, but at the end of the day, Michael Johnson is such a complete package now that he's had really good guidance and training from Ross Lyon. He is very, very much a centrepiece in this defensive section of my All-Australian team. Next up, I really wasn't sure what to do with Brett Deledio. For mine, he's been Richmond's best player, maybe just a touch above Cochin all season, but nevertheless, he was a must-have in my All-Australian team, and I wasn't really sure what to do with him. I could play him through the centre, but I think he'd be most effective coming off the half-back with his run and with his ability to really use the ball well. His use of the ball is absolutely unbelievable. Some of the ways that this guy is able to get the ball up to his forwards. Jack Riewoldt has had such fantastic service because of guys like Deledio setting up the attacking movements to Cochin, to guys like Dustin Martin, all throughout the middle. He was by far and away a must-have. It was just a matter of working out how to use him. I think Brett Deledio would slot in very nicely in the half-back line. Next up, we take a look at the midfield, and this, I tell you what, selecting an All-Australian midfield must be keeping the selectors up all night, giving them headaches for weeks and nightmares, because I'm going to make a bold statement and say that 2013, we have one of the strongest midfields across the board. You look at all the selection of players across the AFL, I think that the midfields now of AFL teams are stronger than they have ever been. I know that's a bold statement, but I tell you what, you look at some of the quality. More than anything, you look at some of the names of guys that I haven't selected in the centre. Guys like Luke Hodge and Judd, both unfortunately missed out because I couldn't find ways to put them in the midfield. I think this year we have one of the strongest selection of midfield to choose from ever in the Australian football rules. Australian football history. It's such a difficult decision to pick the three, but what I've tried to do is pick them for their strengths and work out how they could be used in each position. So the first choice has to be Patrick Dangerfield. This guy is a rocket. He's won the last couple of grand final sprints. He is just as fast with the ball as he is without the ball. The guy could really give Lewis Jetta a run for his money, that's for sure. His ball skills are fantastic. His service into the forward line, and when he drops back to initiate the slingshot, is just phenomenal. The guy is an absolute machine. Paddy Dangerfield is best on ground, or second to best on ground, just about every time he sets on the football field. The guy is just a walking, talking excitement machine. Any team in the AFL would love to have someone like Patrick Dangerfield hanging out on the wing. He can play up forward as well, which is why I selected him as someone who can jump up forward into that half-forward flank area if need be, but he's at his most exciting and explosive when he's thundering down the wing, and that's why I love having guys like Patrick Dangerfield in the AFL and why I want him in my All-Australian team. Next up we have Jobe Watson. Jobe Watson, what more can you say? Last year's Brownlow medalist, is a star in every sense of the word. The guy is Essendon at the moment. When they've struggled, when they've looked like they're down and out, they've looked to Jobe Watson. He's lifted them. He's got 30 touches so many times this year. He's one of the highest leading disposal getters and kick getters and mark takers as well in the AFL. He's a fantastic tackler, and for a reasonably built player, he's still very agile and so fast on his feet. I love watching guys like Jobe Watson because they put on clinics when they get the ball. His use of the ball is absolutely fantastic, and his service into the forward 50 is first class. He is one of the best players without a doubt in, I think, this All-Australian team. And to partner him up is the Sydney Swans' Josh Kennedy, the first of two Josh Kennedys, spoiler warning, in this All-Australian team. Joey Kennedy has been mind-blowing since he joined the Swans from Hawthorn. It looked like he was going to be one of those guys that was sitting on the back benches for a club for a couple of years and then he'd fade away and find another job. But Josh Kennedy, hasn't he reinvented his game since he came up north to Sydney? Josh Kennedy is racking up disposals week in, week out. He is the backbone of the Swans midfield, and I tell you what, I had a tough time just picking who I would nominate for All-Australian from the Swans midfield just alone, but Joey Kennedy has been one of the best players in the last 12 months. Joey Kennedy is the sort of guy that you can build a team around. He doesn't really have any weaknesses. He's good at just about everything that he does. Josh Kennedy could play up forward, but he can also drop back. And this is the reason why I picked him, I guess, to counteract with Dangerfield. If Dangerfield looks to go up forward, then I would have Josh Kennedy drop back to help out someone on the half-back line, like a Johnson or like a Deledio or something like that, where they could partner up and Joey Kennedy could drop back while Dangerfield launches an attack forward. So I wanted to have that balance on the wings, just so we had one attacking and one more defensive. When I say defensive, I guess not out-and-out speed and agility, but someone who's more measured and will look to get the ball and go in hard. And I think Josh Kennedy is just such a fantastic player, and he's, again, another walk into this Australian team. Next up, we take a look at the half-forward line, and this was a very difficult position to pick because what I had to do was take some midfielders that I just desperately wanted in the team, and I slotted them up in the half-forward flank, and I think some of these guys were just so good in their teams that you couldn't leave them out, and that half-forward area as well is the area where you can sort of afford to have some midfielders up there when they're not playing in the midfield or when they go up there to rest, and that's where I've used to fill in some of the spots of guys that I just had to have in this team. Starting off, Travis Boak, captain of Port Adelaide, has been so influential in not only on the field, but as an off-the-field character. Travis Boak has put in such an incredible effort to rebuild Port Adelaide. We all saw them last year, and I personally was very concerned for the state of their football club at the end of last year, and everything was going on. But Travis Boak has lifted his personal game, lifted his leadership ability, and lifted Port Adelaide as a football club to not only bring them into finals contention, but also to put his name in the running for a potential high finish in the Brownlow. Travis Boak can go up forward and kick goals whenever they're needed, and he's great along the ground. Some of his groundwork is absolutely magnificent to watch. Monfries, I could have gone with over Boak, but I just felt that Travis Boak's ability to finish off and just do everything that Port Adelaide could possibly need him to do is the reason why I pipped Angus Monfries for Travis Boak. Next up, words cannot describe how good Adam Goodes is as an AFL footballer and as a human being. Adam Goodes is, by far and away, he is my favourite player, my personal favourite player in the AFL. He's in Brownlow medal form. Watch out for this guy coming up to Brownlow medal counting night, because he should have been racking them up all year. His use of the ball, I mean, I could go on and list his attributes and his skills and his abilities all day. If you've heard the name Adam Goodes before, it's almost certain to be followed by something like champion, superstar, legend, icon, one of the best players to ever grace a football field, and he is in my Australian team without a doubt. Next up, I had Joel Selwood, and he is what I was really talking about when I needed to have another midfielder up in half forward, because Selwood, although I'm not a fan of the way he plays in that he draws a lot of free kicks because he ducks his head quite a bit, don't hate me Geelong fans please, he is still a fantastic and phenomenal leader of the Geelong Cats, and he's still a great player. He'll be up there again this year in the Brownlow, and when he does drift forward, his ball use and service to guys like Podsy Adley, and I think Joel Selwood this year has stepped up his game to that whole new level and has really filled in from where Gary Ablett left off when he left to join the Gold Coast. I think Joel Selwood is a fantastic captain and an all-round great player. Next up, we have the forwards, and I'll leave the controversy to a little bit later, but we take a look. These are my three. These are the three guys that you would want to be kicking to and you would want to be kicking for your life. I put it like this. Josh Kennedy, his run-up maybe is ridiculous and strange as you've ever seen, but I tell you what, he's a dead-eye dick when he's shooting for goal. This guy doesn't miss. He's an absolute star. He's leading the Coleman medal at the moment. He's a couple of goals ahead of Jack Riewoldt, and he is an absolute star for the West Coast Eagles. I had to have an Eagle in the team because they're one of the teams I think this year that have pretty much been underdone with the star power they've got. They should be doing better, and I think the way to do that is to target guys like Kennedy. Kennedy up forward, doesn't miss. He's an absolute star with the ball, and I had to have him. I had to have him in my All-Australian team. And on a very similar note, Jarryd Roughead. This guy has come out of nowhere to challenge Hawthorn, rather to challenge Lance Franklin as Hawthorn's number one forward. I'm even going to go as far as to say that I think Jarryd Roughead is the number one power forward at the moment in this competition. The reason I don't quite classify Lance Franklin as a power forward is because he drifts up so much. He's not the guy that you just kick the ball to and hope that he bustles through a pack to market. Lance Franklin's the guy that you try and pinpoint and give him great service. With Roughead, he can jump high in a pack of 10 and he'll come out of it unbruised and unscathed. Jarryd Roughead as well, he started kicking so many more goals this year ever since Hawthorn brought in David Hale from North Melbourne, and he's been able to sit up in the goal square. He hasn't been confined to having to ruck 3/4 of the game. Now he's up there showing what he can do as a power forward, and my God, he is amazing at it. Jarryd Roughead is a walk into this team. He is an absolute star, and that is why I need him in my All-Australian team. And next up, we have Chrissy Mayne, the third of my Fremantle players in this team. Freo, I think, are well and truly a chance for the flag this year, and you want to know why? Chris Mayne. When Matthew Pavlich went down with an injury, someone had to step up, and that someone just so happened to be Christopher Mayne. I remember a couple of years ago when he was on the fringe, sort of fighting with guys like Ballantyne for a spot in the team. He was inconsistent, a little bit all over the place, didn't know where he was supposed to play, and looked again like one of those guys that was just going to fade out. But Chris Mayne, in a couple of off seasons, has turned into one of the most trusted kicks in the competition. The guy doesn't miss. He only kicked about 3 or 4 behinds for all of last season from set shots. The guy is an absolute superstar on and off the ball as well. What I think he doesn't get credited enough for is his tackling efforts and his pressure to lock the ball in Freo's forward 50. It's such a defensive tactic that Ross Lyon puts on Fremantle, and I think it's guys like particularly Ballantyne and Mayne that don't get credited enough for making it work. He's an absolute star with the ball and without the ball in applying tackling pressure. He again was a must-have in my All-Australian team. And we take a look now at the followers, and this is where the cream rises to the top. Nick Naitanui from the West Coast Eagles. The guy's a walking highlight reel. The guy is amazing. He is such an incredible athlete and has turned himself into such an incredible force in the Australian Football League. He is such a quality player. The guy is one of the most, without a doubt, one of the most exciting players in the history of the AFL. I watch every West Coast game just to wait to see what Nick Naitanui does next. The guy's a walking, talking star, and I love his hair. That's why he's in my All-Australian team. I'm just going to give 2 words for the next guy. Gary Ablett. Move on. Next up we have Dan Hannebery, and Dan Hannebery, my goodness, what a player he has become. Another one of the guys in the Swans midfield, young bloke, only 22, 23 years of age, already got a premiership under his belt and could well pick up his first Brownlow medal by the end of this season. Dan Hannebery is a star in every meaning of the word. I absolutely love watching Dan Hannebery because the guy's effort is immense. He never stops running, never stops playing, never stops going hard. A couple of weeks ago he had 31 disposals at half time, and it took to that long for Adelaide to realise this guy's a threat, we should tag him, and he still ended up with over 40 possessions for the end of the game. Dan Hannebery is such a star. He's a ball magnet, his use of it is fantastic, and he's as good in defence as he is in the middle, as he is up forward as well. He's a goal-kicking, spoiling, tackling, running little hard man, and that's why he's such a great midfielder for the Swans and for my All-Australian team. So that is the 18 on-fielders, and we now can take a look at the bench. The bench is the controversial one. Let's take a look first at Trent Cotchin. Trent Cotchin, captain of Richmond, what a star he is. He is the one of the guys that I was talking about when we have such a strong midfield across the AFL. He was one of the unlucky ones to miss out. I love watching Trent Cotchin play because it means so much to him. Watching him before and after the game, you can see it in his eyes and you can see the way he plays, how much it means to him. It's that sort of engine that's rare. It's rare, and particularly when teams haven't had as much success as Richmond would like in the last couple of years. Trent Cotchin's one of the guys guys that could lead Richmond into a new generation of pushing for top 4 and potentially looking to go for a grand final or a premiership in the next 3-4 years. I think Richmond are by far and away the team to look out for, and it's because of guys like Trent Cotchin. Next, Kieran Jack. The Dan Hannebery Kieran Jack mould is a new mould. It's a new thing in AFL football. It's the hard-running, stockily built, but agile as hell midfielder who can play in just about anywhere on the ground. The reason I didn't have Kieran Jack in my starting 18 was because I just felt that Dan Hannebery had pipped him in terms of having a better season up to this point, but that could surely change before the end of the year. Kieran Jack has got fantastic sporting genes and he's a fantastic young player with his future so bright. Already a premiership under his belt like Dan Hannebery. Such a great mould and pedigree of a player. I can't wait to see great things from Jackie from the rest of this year. You know, when we think of GWS, a couple of months ago when they were supposed to start to be playing better football, we thought Jono Patton. Jono Patton is going to lead GWS into the finals in a couple of years, and he is going to be one of the best forwards in the AFL. Unfortunately, he got injured. But who stepped up and stepped into his role and became a player in and of himself? One, Jeremy Cameron. Jeremy Cameron is now right up there in the Coleman. He was leading it for quite a while in this season in a team that is struggling to even get a couple of goals on the board for a game. He has kicked more than 50% of GWS's goals for this year, and even though that hasn't been many, he's still getting up there in the Coleman. He's a great marker. He's fantastic on both feet. You can just watch any selection of his highlight reels in his youth footy or in the footy he's played for GWS. He's great on both feet. He's very agile for a tall man. He's well built, and he is also, like Jono Patton, in that Jonathan Brown mould. If he can stock up a little bit over summer, he could be right up there in the tall forwards of this competition. Now, I encourage you not to throw shoes or any other disposable items at your computer screen when I say that the sub for my All-Australian team is Lance Franklin. Now, why did I not pick Lance Franklin? Arguably one of the best forwards we've ever seen in the recent era on the subs bench. Didn't even make the bench. He's a sub for my All-Australian team. I'll explain to you why. I think Lance Franklin is an incredible player. He's just about one of a kind. But the guy is, at the moment, based on his footy for 2013 up to this point, he's too unpredictable to select in my All-Australian team. I've had him as the sub because you really can't leave him out. He is a must in any team. Any team in the competition would love to have Lance Franklin. But my one concern is, if he just isn't in the right mindset, then it can be a negative impact on the team. And okay, look at Hawthorn in last year's grand final. He almost won them that game. He almost did. But arguably, he almost lost it too. Franklin's kicking style is just too unpredictable. It's too unreliable to pick as a full-time All-Australian full forward. I picked Roughead over Franklin for exactly that reason. Of course you'd pick him in his team, but with the competition of the rest of the AFL, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. He's there on the subs bench, so he's there to use, but as a starting player, I just couldn't do it. So that, guys, is my All-Australian team for the mid-season mark of 2013, and as strong as I believe that team is, there were still so many guys that just missed out, and guys that I had to cut in order to make way for other players. Guys like Rory Sloane, Dustin Martin, Luke Hodge, even guys like Chris Judd have been such great players for this year. Mark Murphy, Travis Cloak, that sort of mould. Harry O'Brien, those sort of players that I would love to include, but I just couldn't find space for them in the team. It is such a dense amount of quality and of sheer talent in this year's cohort of the AFL players. Such an amazingly strong group of players, and as unfortunate as I think it was that some of those guys had to miss out, I'm still really happy with the team that I would put out as the All-Australian team for this year. I'll be doing another one of these videos at the end of the season to see how close I was, and also to make readjustments, to make changes. You know, it's only half the season gone, and some players may still have the best footy ahead of them, or may be unfortunate enough to pick up an injury and be overtaken, have their position, I guess, more worthy to go to someone else. But anyway, guys, that's my view of who would make the All-Australian team if it was chosen today. Be sure to leave in the comment section below, who do you think should be in this All-Australian team? What changes would you make to my team, or who do you think was stiff to miss out? Who do you think's lucky to make the game? Who do you think should go in the All-Australian team of 2013, at least up to this point. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please do ensure to leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, guys. I really would appreciate it, as always. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Go the Swans. Cheers, and stay tuned. Phenomenal